Hello and welcome, 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 welcome. I think what I'm going to do, I have a remote here for this fan. I'll try and move around and turn it off. But it doesn't want to go off. There we are. It's off. And I think I will try to call Rudy. Let's see if he has any brilliant suggestions about this 1541 2-power supply.
Hello, Dave.
Hello, Rudy. I must warn you, I am recording.
Oh, hello, everybody.
Yes, this is Rudy of Rudy's Retro Info. He does magical things. He has created an incredible masterpiece of a repair manual for Super Pets. Check it out. Anyway, so here's the funny thing. I had a 1541 2-power supply that I just got from this fellow, and I checked the voltages, and they seem well within acceptable parameters. But when I plug it in, the drive says, no, I won't do this. So I did find another suitable power supply that I already tested, and I plugged it in, and the drive is just fine. So it's funny. Like one voltage is supposed to be 5-ish, the other's supposed to be 12-ish, and they both are within those they're nothing's terribly high or low or anything. They're not bang on.
Right.
But the drive with this other power supply just says no.
Have you tried a different power supply?
Oh yeah. I have another one here. I'm actually got it plugged into the drive now.
And it works?
And the drive is fine.
So it could be maybe
could there be a bad
the AC voltage not right?
Well, both of the voltages coming out of this power supply are DC.
Oh, they're all DC, so that's weird.
5 DC and 12 DC. And I guess both of them were a little higher than, the 5 and the 12.
Right.
But, not anything terrible.
It's interesting.
So, yes, it is confusing and interesting. So I figure the only reasonable thing, now, I don't know, maybe the DC is dirty or something, or who knows, I don't know. Anyway, I figure what I will do, as I always do, I have a box marked Rudy.
Okay.
So I figure I'll toss it in there.
All right, I'll check it out for you.
And maybe at some point, yes, you can say, oh, well, the waveform, or sorry, the DC is dirty, or the whatever, or whoever, I don't know. It's very strange. Mind you, it could also be without a load, it reads just fine. But with a load, it's just like, no, not really.
Yeah, that could be could be it too. Could be a couple things, but yeah. Have you put some deoxit in the connector?
No.
Could be some micro corrosion.
Micro corrosion.
Yes.
Micro corrosion.
Try that. You have some deoxit, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just give it a little squirt, and then plug it in, unplug it, plug it in, unplug it, and then try it again. But it could be that there's something. It's producing the voltage, but not enough amperage. So take a look.
Okay, now I just have to find, where did I put the deoxit? Anyway, I will hunt. All right, I will try that, and I will try again.
Yeah.
And I will keep you posted. So you hear that, people? Rudy has wisdom. We'll see if it actually makes any difference. Or, if one day when we swap things back and forth, you find a thing in a box, you'll know that's the one.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it and put it on the bench and see what happens.
Indeedy. Very good. So, do you have any updates on your adventures these days?
As you know, I'm working on that 8032 motherboard that's completely socketed. I'm still waiting for a decoder chip to show up, and hopefully it'll be working. I mean, it works. When I run the job diagnostics, but it doesn't recognize. It failed in all the memory and all the ROMs. So, and it won't boot up without it. So there's still that one IC I have to. Actually, there's two of them I have to take a look at and see. But I'm waiting for parts.
So this is, just so people know, this is the board. It's the universal board for an 8032, which could also be a 4032. And it's been giving Rudy some level of trouble. And as you just heard, he has now removed every single chip and put it in a socket. Tell me, though, with that diagnostic board from its tine mouth, right?
Correct.
If you put that in and tell it to bypass everything,
it'll work.
It works just fine.
Yeah. So I'm thinking it's the decoder chip on the 8032 board. So I did find a handful. 6 bad RAM ICs. All the video RAM was bad. A couple of other TTL logic chips that were bad. So it's quite a bit. But I've decided to pull all the chips and socketed so I can work on an 8032 repair manual, similar to my Super Pet manual.
And that's available on your GitHub page.
That's correct.
And what is your GitHub page called?
Just go to GitHub and look for Rudy's Retro Intel, or go to my channel and all my videos have the direct link.
Yes, the same thing, Rudy's Retro Intel on YouTube. And look for the link, or go to GitHub and search for Rudy's Retro Intel and see what's what. But anyway, if you do have a Super Pet and you are having trouble with the Super Pet side of it, up until Rudy got a machine and he was so happy it didn't work, he then attacked it and really started digging in. I think it took 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And once he had it where he did get it figured out, then he started doing things and he made a manual, because nowhere, he looked everywhere on the internet to find some sort of documentation, some sort of hints, clues, anything, and there was nothing. So now
there's the technical manual from Commodore, but it doesn't tell you in the manual that your 8032 motherboard, which is on the bottom, the main board, needs to have a jumper wire.
Oh yeah.
And you need a special character ROM.
Yeah, that would be good to know.
So without that piece of information, it's never going to work. So after you lent me one of your boards plus all your Super Pet boards to fix, I was able, between that and mine and some help from Chuck, to figure that out and got it all working, and then made the manual. I figured, why not, since we're here, might as well make a manual. And then I was able to fix your 3 Super Pet boards, and then I got 2 other ones for repairs, and with my manual, I was able to get both of them fixed within 30 minutes.
So it's kind of like Rudy made the manual for you, but it's also for him. So in 6 months or a year, when some other board appears, he doesn't have to go, oh gee, I don't remember.
Right.
He can just go to the manual.
And the thing I did with the manual was I put in pictures, so it's easier to kind of follow. So if you're getting this kind of image on the screen, well, then look at these chips. If you're getting a different image, try these. Look at these chips, and so on. So it makes it easier and faster. Like I said, I was able to fix 2 other Super Pet boards, and both of them in under 30 minutes, based on what it was showing on the screen.
Imagine.
And I didn't even have to use these schematics. Just based on what the symptoms were, I was able to find the right ICs to pull or test, and then pull and then replace, and they worked.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, if for people with a 64, there is some website, I think it's called Visible 64 or something or other, where it shows you all kinds of different screens to give you hints as to what could be wrong.
Yes, and that's where I got the idea from. So that was a really cool idea, based on what you're seeing on the screen would determine, it's this chip or this area to look at, and so on. And I figured I'd do the same thing with the Super Pet.
How very reasonable. So you're waiting, as in the old days, people would wait for their decoder ring.
Yes.
You're waiting for a decoder chip.
That's correct. Hopefully this week it'll come, and then once it's working, I have a Super Pet board replica. So there was a fellow YouTuber called City Zen, and he got a Super Pet that was completely missing the third board. So in the Super Pet, there's two versions: a 2-board version and a 3-board version. He has a 3-board version, but missing the upper memory board. So he ended up finding this GitHub page that has the second board, like the 2-board pet, and made some boards, and he sent me one to test and validate, and I built it, and it works. So once I have my 8032 board, I will put that together. I'll have another Super Pet configured.
And life is good.
Yes, and like I said, then I'll be working on a manual for the 8032. Since it's all socketed, I might as well start doing a bunch of more experiments and testing, put a manual together so that you have an 8032 or even a 4032, you should be able to use the manual to determine, because determine what the issue is, because the boards are the same. It's just that there's jumpers on a 4032 to make it into an 8032. There's 2 additional video RAMs you have to install, and then some jumpers on the board. But that's basically it.
Tell me, have you found instructions as to how to convert the 4032 into an 8032 or backwards?
No.
Gee, that would be a handy part of the manual.
Well, yeah. I think there's something in the technical manual. I haven't really dug deep into that, looked at that, but there's just got to be somewhere. If not, I'll have to do a bunch of experiments and see.
Oh joy, oh joy.
Yes.
Very good. Well, I will hunt. I know I have the deoxide around here. Just trying to think of when I used it on last, and where was I? And I was intending to dig into, I have these 4 wayward computers, 2 64s and 2 VIC-20s, but I thought, I'll start simple. I'll just plug in this power supply and it'll be fine. It'll be dandy. It'll be wonderful. And it's not.
Yeah. It is not. Well, I'm sure it's somewhere in your house.
Oh, yeah. It's here.
Yeah. So I would give that a try. Just, clean it up, contacts, and put that in and see if it works. If not, then throw it in the box and I'll take a look.
If it was a 64 power supply, I would have just snipped the wires.
Yeah.
But these ones have typically been pretty reliable.
Yeah, it could be there's something inside that's not making full contact, so it's not getting the proper current draw.
I guess somehow these are easier to get into. Like, there's no screws, but it may be they're easier to get into, or it may just be another snip the wires, save the wires, carry on.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep. Very good. Well, people, hang on. I'm going to say goodbye to the people here, but then maybe I'll keep talking to Mr. Rudy. So, you've heard it from the man, the Rudy man. So, Rudy's GitHub, Rudy's Retro Intel, Rudy's YouTube, Rudy's Retro Intel, and he does things on all sorts of computers, with his most unfavorite being any Osborne luggable. They are horrid machines to take apart, horrid machines to test, horrid machines. So if you have an Osborne luggable that you really don't want and you really want to torment somebody, send it to Rudy. Send them all.
It's to be honest, it's a neat computer. It's just that it takes about 20 odd minutes or more to open it up to take everything apart, and then you can't really test the board on the bench. You have to kind of put things sort of back together again in order to test it. So, yeah, it's not a fun machine to work on.
So, yes, if you're going to sell an Osborne, Rudy is not your man. If you just want to torment him, go leave it on his porch.
Exactly.
Everyone you have. So he walks out and says, "Ah, Osborne's everywhere."
Yeah.
It'll probably make his hair fall out.
Probably.
Yep. All right, I will wish these people farewell, and I will look for the deoxits. But at the moment, I'll just stop recording and then talk to the man. So, have a lovely day, people. Bye for now.